Hello guys and welcome to TFT Worlds Day 2, game number 1. Enjoy.
Myriad of different kinds of items. So let's go ahead and see what people's strategies are. Do we have all Earths in the lobby, or is there something else on the table here?
Yeah, we'll see in just a moment. We're jumping on board immediately with Toronto Tokyo. This is one of our leaders from day one in second place, 35 points. He just has to continue what he was doing yesterday, and he'll be in a good spot. He was one of our players, played 6 unique comps across the entire day. What an exceptional day he had.
He's a student of the game. This guy used to be a former StarCraft 2 pro gamer, similar to Dark Hydra, so almost 2 peas in a pod. Played for Evil Geniuses back in the day, and now is a retired esports pro, but kind of dipping back into it, competing in teamfight tactics, and look at him now on top of the standings alongside fellow North American Wajan Iverson.
Look at our legends now. We do see the breakup is pretty much what was expected. Isotoma, the Brazilian player, continues to be playing onto this Ezreal, trying to potentially go for that MF reroll line. He played so much of it yesterday. Everyone else in this lobby is going to be on Earth.
Yeah, as a Samira too. Now, the question is whether or not he's open to playing around Noxus. With a Renekton pair and Samira, I'm inclined to say that it's actually okay to play around it. Usually around Noxus, you struggle with tempo early, because if you don't have the 2-stars, you're not able to win, you're not able to get the Noxus stacks. You want to snowball your lead. This could be a spot where he might be open to it, but I do know that a lot of players try to avoid it because Noxus is generally not that strong.
Yeah, I mean, we only really saw it when the conditions were kind of perfect. T-Lides went on a big win streak playing Noxus previously and ended up with 2 Noxus emblems, but now we've got a silver lobby here. We're going to have to keep stock of how many branching outs get picked and where all these emblems go.
There was a surprising amount yesterday. We were looking at these lobby starts, maybe 5 players eventually picking branching out. So we'll see what exactly these players
What do we got,
for.
Dan?
I think Dark Hydra may have hit a Demacian emblem in the bottom.
Oh, he finally got one!
It's kind of hard to see, though. I think it might be the case.
It is. Yeah, it is.
And it is.
So let me touch on this
0
a tiny
Demacia
bit.
games yesterday. Finally to today.
I'm not trying to make up excuses for our EMEA players, especially our EMEA champion, but I swear to you, this is a true fact. No Demacia, no Ionia, no Vanquisher emblems throughout 6 games for Dark Hydra. We saw on stream for that game 6, he had a Challenger Invoker mix, which is really not ideal. Finally, the blessings have come in his favor.
Yeah, I mean, live by the earth, die by the earth, and today, hey, maybe he's living. He found the Demacia early on. If he can pick up one more later in this game, you know, we're in business for a first place.
Oh, wow. Jinro took branching out into Bilgewater emblem. This is not really a good emblem that many people are looking for. Even if you're trying to lean into a Bilgewater-oriented strategy, like playing around Misfortune and Strategist, people don't even want that Bilgewater. And going for 7 Bilgewater is surprisingly worse in the data whenever you're trying to plug in the usual carries. It's about 9 Demacia, or sorry, 9 Bilgewater. Wow, I got 9 Demacia in my mind. 9 Bilgewater is very good. So if you can get there somehow, it's strong, but how do you get there safely?
And yeah, we didn't really see anybody get there yesterday, right? It was all people getting stuck in that 5 to 7, and in the data, as you said, it just was not looking good. Realistically, the only time Bilgewater was looking okay was 3 with Neela, and that does not need the emblem whatsoever.
I think the only verticals we missed was Bilgewater and potentially Noxus, I think, as well. T-Lights had a potential to go for those 2 emblems in that game 3 or 4, but wasn't able to find it in the end. So maybe it'll be the first chance to see Bilgewater in action, which is a very explosive comp once that gets together.
Bobe back on Ionia Vanquishers. This is a comp that he's favoring a lot. It's actually kind of the underground, less popular, play the solid A-tier composition that a lot of people are anchoring around. And Bobe is also open to lose streak and into an Ionia Vanquisher. I think a lot of people were having question marks over that. Not only just maining Ionia Vanquishers, but playing lose streak. So he is pioneering a different type of approach to the metagame, playing Earth, but not picking the augments that often and avoiding trying to play contested lines going into Ionia Vanquishers a lot. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, End of Bobe right now, he's still on that rogue early, and that's definitely an interesting way for him to be playing around this. It's unexpected to see that out of Bobe because he's been on the Ionia Vanquishers the entire time.
Oh, we must be looking at a different POV because I think that was a healing orbs that I saw.
Yeah,
so
but to your
might have
point,
had it mixed up. My bad.
To your point, though, he has been 4 out of 6 games Ionia Vanquisher. Bobe has heavily leaned into that. We expect him to continue on that road, and so it's interesting to see him on potentially a different line.
Understood.
The only other time he strayed away from it was that 6 Void yesterday where he had a very good result.
And coming to the Rogue Emblem, we'll see how exactly this is going to fare because we saw it a lot in regionals. It did very poorly unless you were going into the Gunner line, unless you were going into the Zon line, specifically with Graves as kind of the secondary carry, but not really the star of the show. So we saw Rogue having, I think, middling results and just being overall a decision of, do you hit Graves 3 early? Can you ride that for tempo throughout stages 3 and stay healthy? If yes, great. If not, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, there used to be other builds that you could play with Rogue. If you had like double trouble, you could try to put the Rogue emblem on someone really strong, like Mordekaiser, or if you're just rolling for 6 on Jinx. These days, not really that much. Maybe you just end up playing 5 Rogues for a while. Not to mention that there's a possibility that KRMX with the Zon emblem could end up leaning into Graves as well, which is, Rogues already is barely a top 4 comp. Do you actually want to play contested?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you'd want to go into it contested, but we also saw, Weijin playing heavily around the Jinx within that kind of Zon composition instead of playing around Rogue, so that is still potential, though KRM does have some item slams that would lean a little bit more in the Rogue direction. And as you were saying, Dan, the North American players had prepped so much together and put a lot of practice. Seeing Weijin's success on Zon, I feel like KRM's got to know the line pretty well as well.
Yeah, that's actually what they went over. Last night, they stayed up till very late, VOD reviewing every single one of each other's games. I was able to sit in and listen, and they're all really open-minded. The thing that stuck out to me the most was the humility shown amongst the players. Everyone feels like they can learn from each other, and Weijin had some of the most interesting games because he played 3 Zon games.
Yeah.
And so people in North America are very much trying to stay open to it if they can.
The chance here for Hydra to make 20 or make this Milio 2. I think he's going to try and make 20 here. He's on a 3-win streak, so it does really matter to have as much board strength as possible. And he's playing up against KRM, who has already taken a loss in this stage 2. 2 losses, actually, so should be a fairly easy fight. The Samira upgraded with a Radiant DB should be doing enough, but the front line has already melted for Dark Hydra here. Looks like the Warwick is doing a little bit too much, and the Samira on the opposite side will be taking the win instead. The Milio 2 is made because of it.
Yeah, Dark Hydra instead going to try and improve the board. I like this out of him. Rough that he loses the win streak. Instead, we only have Jingro at the top on win streak, and on the bottom, we've got Bobe and Zyko both looking towards that loss streak. So we'll have to see if Jingro can hold on to the win, or if those two will be able to keep their losses as well.
Yeah, it's a really unfortunate loss for Dark Hydra, and that Nasus is appetizing, but we lost our streak, so we don't have to play max tempo, and we need to focus a little bit on economy, because as many people know, for Demacia, as much as you're trying to stabilize around Quinn 2 in the early mid-game, you're really looking for that 4 cost, which means you have to roll at 7.
A very unique early board here for Jingro. He's playing around Bilgewater with Quinn as the holder on this patch, though, but overall we've seen the power of Demacia, even in stage 2, just for the Radiant item on something like a Poppy that is already upgraded. So looks like it will be a 5-win streak for one of the strongest players in yesterday's day 1.
Yeah, Jingro, Bobe gonna shake hands here. Bobe wants this 5 loss, Jingro wants that 5 win. They're both gonna get exactly what they're looking for. And, once again, Frodan was talking about Bobe being able to loss streak quite a bit, playing around that strategy. And once again, we're seeing him go for 5 loss.
Yep, Zyko also going for 5 loss as well, so very fortunate for both of those players. The thing about Bobe is he only has 2 Graves, and he needs to hit pretty early. The thing about it, too, with a Rogue emblem is you theoretically could drop Graves. You could just play Graves to get to 4 Rogue, and then go to 6 or 7, forget Graves 3, but then you have this big empty chasm of tempo that you don't have on Stage 3 to streak. Stage 3 is really important for these Rogue and reroll comps in general, because that's the stage that most of these level 7 4-cost players are going to be taking it easy. They're not going to try to roll on 6, and so you need to get that HP lead. So if you lose Stage 2 and Stage 3 for either of these players, that could be disaster.
Not just that, the clean overlap with Jinx as well, with the Gunner, Zon, Rogue mix-up there, makes it so it's very hard to justify taking Graves out of your comp altogether. So I think we'll see if that'll be the plan that, I think the traditional plan that we've seen throughout most of the last few patches. For now, big eye on Toronto Tokyo, who is now also becoming a streaker coming to Stage 3. We'll see if they decide to level to 6 at 3-1, especially to try and defend this streak.
Bobe rolled once, comes across a Nico 2. It is electric, so it's useful for the stun. He's going to go ahead and find the Graves 2. Is he going to actually commit to rolling deeper than this? He is not. And now he's going for Nico Rogue. This is some good tech. And because of this rod, he's able to adapt. I think this is a spontaneous choice by Bobe, because a lot of times you're aiming for Jinx, but because he has things like Crown Guard or Spark, he can actually lean into this Nico.
Yeah, I actually love this a lot. We saw him reforge one of his components, found that rod, and then change the game plan, especially with this hit. And now we'll see if it's enough tempo to start winning a little bit in Stage 3, as you said. But far too low, and wow, look at the damage from this Nico. Nico 2 with the Rogue emblem. See if Bobe can run the lobby with it.
That's an incredible spot from Bobe, because I wasn't even thinking about Ishto. When I see electric, I put it out of my mind. I'm like, if it's not wood, if it's not ice, I'm not really thinking about it. No, thank you. But he recognized, based off the reforge of his items, what he could actually do. And that hesitation, that thoughtfulness led to this opening that Bobe has spotted. That is why he's considered the top player in Korea.
Chingro, we saw there at 3-1, did end up losing his streak. Toronto still on it, and Zyko, we'll have to see if he starts stopping that bleeding as well, because they were both, Bobe and Zyko, under or almost under 60 HP, which is not where you want to be starting stage 3.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now we've got more silvers being picked up. We'll see if anything really interesting gets grabbed. I see a bronze ticket for Cosmo. Bobe on the Rogues has Indomitable Will, Cybernetic Bulk, and Misconnections as the options.
And Misconnections is sometimes good if you really need to get that 2-star tempo. You're playing like, you know, the Samira and the Casio kind of stuff and gives you some econ, but I'm not entirely sure that's the pick here. We do have a couple people taking some nice, powerful silvers. A Pandora's item's also taken by, I believe, Chingro, which is not something that you see that often on 3-2, considering most people have their item direction. So I am curious what he's going to do with that.
All right, jumping on to board with Kurum. He's got the 4 Zon in. He has lost his last round. The Warwick was making a lot of work early on, but being on the full 1-star board outside of the Zon Graves has slowed things down quite a bit. He's going up against Zyko, who is trying to turn things around after the massive loss streak, but when we look at his board, he does have Ionia, but also on kind of this full 1-star board alongside Anila, and he's going to start losing even more HP here as other players have started to hit on their rolldowns.
He also pick up Red Buff as his second augment. One of the most picked silver augments yesterday, but not really one of the best performing silver augments yesterday, despite it being generally very good for that extra combat strength in stage 3.
Zyko's spot looks really bad. He's so poor. He has 30 gold interest based off what we've indicated on the side. And his spot does have that Neela, but he's not going to be able to roll at 3-5. And if he does throw at 3-5, he's going to have 10 to 15 gold. Unless he wants to roll to 0, which is actually completely valid. That being said, if he's able to pick up, say, a Neela pair on the carousel and then find a way to play around it, Quicksilver is actually a really good complementary item. He probably is going to lean towards Last Whisper, though, because he needs that armor reduction.
Yeah, big thing. I mean, he kind of needs a high roll into the Xayah as well to finish up the 6 Ionia for Vanquisher. It feels like this board is really struggling, and as you said, he's not going to have enough gold to really roll on 3-5, but he doesn't feel like he has enough HP.
These are big.
He has to, though. That's the hard part about it.
You have to stop this bleeding.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially for a player that needs to get good results. He had 3 very good games at the very start of day 1, was leading the pack, I think was 2nd place in the standings, and then just fell off a cliff in those last 3 games. Needs to come back into it for this day 2.
Bobe, in the meantime, able to continue to get a win. We're looking at Toma. No, we're looking at Kurum versus Chingro. Chingro's Bilgewater board. He's making me eat my words. You know, I feel like Bilgewater in general is a little bit hard to play around, but theoretically that flat damage is very good in the early game.
Garvin as well on this carousel. Sona even for the Demacia players.
Just goes for the bow instead.
Be the Last Whisper onto the Ashe most likely. We did see in the stats, Ashe reroll had a much higher average overall than really anything else. But I think most of that is also maybe the 9 Ionia players having Ashe on their board, rerolling and then going to 9 Ionia with 2 emblems they're able to get either in carousels or off of their augments.
All right, let's take a look at Zyko and see if he can go for a big-time roll down. He needs to stabilize in these last 2 fights if he can. So here we go, the level 7 roll down. Does have a little bit more gold than I thought. Picks up Neela again, but he did end up selling that previous Neela to make that gold. Can he find something else miraculous to pull him out of this deficit? No 2 stars so far. This is looking real bad for Zyko.
Like, he found the Xayah, which is, you really did need that. However, upgrades were probably the most important. And the Neela just taunting him over and over again. Same Neela, same Neela.
And that makes it worse. That doesn't make me feel better.
Not nice to see a roll down like this where you really don't have any upgrades. You're facing players that have been streaking throughout all of stage 3. They're just so much stronger than you already before you roll down, and now even more so now.
Yeah, and running into someone playing the same composition, but with a couple of upgrades on the board. The Xayah having itemization might make the difference, but Ashe too, putting in a lot of work here. Does feel like Zyko might be able to find this win. Yeah, he'll get there at the end, unless this Ashe, yeah, he will get there. Saving some HP. It's massive for Zyko, though.
So his spot does have an Ionia emblem and a Vanquisher +1, which kind of actually explains a lot of his item situation, because it looks like he's really far behind item count-wise, but that's partly because he had the Ionia emblem. And so he wants to get to level 8, so he can play 6 Ionia plus 6 Vanquisher. The difficulty is, we are so far away from being able to get the privilege of going to 8. We have 1 single upgrade, and we rolled to 10. This is really bad. This is actually to the point where, if I'm Zyko, I'm actually tempted to potentially roll again. I'm not sure if I'm able to actually win the next fight. And if he loses his next fight against any of the players in this pool, that is going to be so much harder to climb back from.
And I was looking at his pool, and at least he doesn't have any of the major win streakers right now. He runs into Cosmo, who's at least relatively weak, but still, every board I look at that he runs into, it feels like at most it is a close fight. He doesn't have anything that looks like a solid win, and it does feel like the Last Whisper is doing enough work to deal with these front lines. He's finding the wins against the other very weak players in the lobby, so he's got a fortunate pool for the rest of Stage 3.
That was really important for Zyko. Got a really easy win over Cosmo, and by the way, Cosmo's spot looks really doomed. Level 6, barely any upgrades as well. So both of these players have to make miraculous comeback to pull themselves out. On top of Toma, who was free-falling in the lobby. 4 loss on Stage 3, lost half his HP. Not sure exactly what happened on his end either.
And despite those wins, I think Zyko is going to be forced to roll to 10 every single round in Stage 4, unless he finds some of these crucial upgrades, at the very least that Set 2 and the Ashe. We'll see how he fares in Stage 4, though. But other players that are also joining him, 30 for Zyko, or 39 for Zyko, 30 for Cosmo, a player who's on a 5-loss streak and is sitting on only 30 gold to roll with.
Braun's taking some really interesting pick on 3-2 and trying to roll for effectively 4 cost. The component buffet is pretty nice. Let's see if he can hit things like that as Zero, which is clearly what he's angling for. He finds an early Aatrox, which could be huge.
Huge pickups here.
Big pickup as well. Toma, the other person in free fall. We saw Mordekaiser 2 get picked up.
That's a Xayah 2.
3 players on Ionia. We saw Toronto also with an Ashe 2, Toma with the Karma, or the Xayah 2 rather, and Zyko picks up both the Set, the Ashe, and the Karma 2 upgrades. So some upgrades have been found in the little gold that Zyko had remaining.
Oh my gosh, what are we cooking here? We're playing Strategist Fiora, which is not something we've really seen very often. Let's see if this is good enough to stabilize. Cosmo doesn't have the items up on time either. Just a little bit too slow. Bebe, where's the Korean APM?
Yeah, he tries and gets him to the board. We're looking at Toma. Is that a Xayah 2 and a Mordekaiser 2 on the bench for Toma right now? I'm very confused about what is going on this board.
Pandora's bench is
the
second augment pickup, so... We've seen it pop off in regionals. We haven't seen it pop off yet on main broadcast at Worlds just yet, but it is an augment that has very high highs and very low lows. You have so much of your gold retained on the bench. If you don't hit the right units, if you continue rolling into the wrong ones, you could be sitting on a very low strength board for all of Stage 4.
It's 50-50 whether or not we get gold or prismatic, and a lot of these players in the bottom need a prismatic, which is exactly what happens. Now, this Earth's grab bag is interesting because I don't know exactly how we can utilize it, but for the others, are they able to get things like Infernal Contract or anything else that's massive power spike? I'm also looking at top center for Bobe, who took Ancient Archives 2, and he's going to rip to see if he can get the tomes that he needs.
There's Rogue Gunner and Nox is offered. I guess Rogue or Gunner makes sense. He goes for Rogue, and there's another option here.
I'm wondering if he's going to go for another Ishtal, which he does. Baby's going to try to go for 4 Ishtal. Or not Baby, I say Bobe. He's trying to go for 4 Ishtal. I really need to work on that.
Tough choices here for Hydra, though. Bastion Crown, Radiant Relics, not ideal when you're already playing Demacia. Radiant items don't really have that much more of an effect, unless you're playing 2 Radiant items on a single unit, but in this case, it will be the Hedge Fund trying to, again, use this gold to potentially go 8, potentially find a Demacia emblem somewhere along the line and have that 9 Demacia win condition.
Exactly. It's massive to be able to find that Econ augment, especially when he's in such a big lead. And there are a lot of very weak boards still that he can prey on, so he should be able to hold the massive HP lead. And as you said, if he finds a Demacia emblem on a carousel later on, this will be an easy way to go to 9.
Yep, binary airdrop here for Toma. Does, by the way, have 2 Aphelios 2s on the bench ready to roll for Pandora's. Does even win this fight. Now that's isolated damage. Is this strike going to be enough to kill the masses? And it looks like it is.
There.
Goodness.
It's there.
And the free falling for Toma at least stops for a little bit. It's not going to be that big of a loss.
And Zyko, who we said needed to find a very big turnaround in these 4 first fights in Stage 4, and he does, but big upgrades coming in for Toma as well.
We have another Silco 2. All of a sudden, we might see the most fraudulent Silco 3 in Stage 4 because in 2 turns, it is possible for this lobby to flip on its head if Toma's able to get that 3-star forecast.
I had 2 for Psycho as well. So important that he finds these upgrades. We saw yesterday with Bobe with the Shen 3 in Stage 4. We could be seeing the same thing again, Casanova.
All right, we've got Kurum jumping into this next fight. He's on a 2-loss streak. MF3 found for Cosmo as we actually jump over to Cosmo's board fighting Dark Hydra. Dark Hydra has not really been upgrading the board, playing for economy right now. This should be an easy win for Cosmo, and he needs it, but we'll see how the fight goes. Jarvan gets a big stun. The Quinn's still relatively untouched, but this Fiora to still full HP with the Shurima. Easy win for Cosmo.
This is a hard lobby to predict all of a sudden. I think a lot of the people on the bottom were stabilizing. Toma also has the possibility of high rolling like crazy if he's able to get that Silco 3 online. Let's see if anything on this carousel can potentially dig these players out of that hole.
It would be a Quinn for anyone trying to go for that Quinn 3 angle with the Demacia Lance, for example, Dark Hydra. There is going to be a Cassante here. I don't think any player is going for that vertical Shurima where Cassante would be so relevant.
Maybe Cosmo. He did make that Shurima emblem, which is interesting, by the way. We haven't seen Shurima Fiora really since PBE. Back when Fiora was really ridiculous and Shurima was way overpowered and people were playing Nasus on every board, you were actually able to dual carry Fiora and Azir. I haven't seen that in quite some time, though.
All right, jumping on board. Isotoma doesn't get the roll.
He has at least 2 lives, probably even 3, given that his board isn't bad. He has 2-star 4 costs across the board.
All right, he's still rolling down, looking for, I guess, potentially more 4 cost, more upgrades on the board. He's still
Azir pair.
Yep, Azir pair picked up.
Oh, hero roll. 1 gold. You can't even really afford it.
You can sell a Zaya potentially.
Yeah.
Find it there.
True. Meanwhile, Dark Hydra finally finds a Mordekaiser, which is really big.
Let's go 8 as well.
He has been losing a few rounds here on stage 4, trying to see if he can stop the bleeding a little bit while he tries to angle for a more consistent comp in stage 5.
Goes up against Zyko, who has found plenty of upgrades. He did stabilize his position quite a bit and is on a win streak. Mordekaiser goes down very early, and now that Zaya gets onto the Quinn and has avoided the cast very crucially in this fight. And that will allow Zyko to pick that up, but if she hadn't stepped forward, that Quinn cast actually might have made a big difference there.
Hydra's still making 40 in that case. He's at 55 HP. He can go to 9.
Oh, here!
Finally is here. We don't find the Silco just yet. The Undercity tactics don't come into play.
But he buys himself another round, which is important. He won. And can he continue to roll for it? Takes a little swig of water, trying to stay hydrated. If he can hit Silco 3, I mean, this is a spot where maybe some miracles can happen. Let's see if Toma can find a way to bail him out. But in the meantime, the other players in the lose streaking, who were lose streaking, are also on fire. Zyko and Cosmo right now, both trying to end stage 4 on fire.
Flipping the lobby, Dark Hydra as well, had a lot of HP, going to greed out, going to try and cap higher than everyone else, and is now down to 55.
Rogue Silco with the electric for the stun. This is really cool. It's got 4-ish, still trying to go for the Kiana and that Nico 3 as well. That electric 4 gives that extra damage to those who are affected by the electric stun. Bobe still trying to get to the 3 stars when he hits this Nico 3 and Kiana 3. How strong do we think it is? It probably could land in the top 4, but is it possible he can win?
It's when he hits, but also maybe if he hits, because he's been losing some of these fights a lot harder in the last few rounds. He's lost quite a bit of HP, so we'll see if Bobe can hold on. He's at 37 right now, and some of these boards are getting very strong.
Not to mention as well, the extra synergy with Unstable Rift and Binary, essentially chasing that next item with this duo triple carry setup is also going to be fantastic. As we mentioned, the low rolls with Pandora's Bench, the high rolls of course, but you can also low roll, as we've seen here. The entire stage has not been able to hit the Silco.
Let's see if Toma can hit it. Let's see if the Korean chefs featuring Bobe back ribs and a Cosmo on the rocks can hit.
No, it's not there once again. I say Toma not going to be able to find it, but he's still on those 2 lives. Still have another chance as we look at Kurum also chasing some 3 stars. Incredibly close to Jace and Warwick.
Dark Hydra, by the way, hit also a Mordekaiser too, so a lot of people are online.
He's got a lot of gold to work with here. 50 gold. He's going to start sending it down for the Jace.
Yes, he needs this.
Kurum finds another Jinx. He's still 3 away there on 30 gold about here if he sells out of the set. Finds his
these
fight.
items, especially so many items on the bench right now.
Runs into Cosmo. That's that 3-star MF. Does the Warwick do enough? That's the big question. We do have Robotic Arm on the Jinx, so the damage is there, even though she's not quite to the 3-star yet. Warwick holding on for quite some time, but the Fiora just running rampant through the back line as Aatrox and the World Ender makes it through. But Jinx, has she done enough? No, she has not. The Azir will finish that off, and Kurum's going to fall quite low here.
Interesting itemization. I think I favored Morello and Crown Guard just so that you have a little bit extra oomph on that Echo.
Doesn't find it yet again.
And we know that now he's contested on the Silcos.
Phase 3 for Kurum. Zyko going 8. He needs to find a way to strengthen his board. He's taken another loss. He's now down to 19 HP. Still 1 life. Still 2 lives. But we'll see if he's able to find stability at the start of this stage 5.
Yeah, Zyko running into a lot of trouble.
Wow.
The fact that everyone else below him hit. There were a lot of players low rolling him included, and when he finally found what he needed, everyone else also did.
This is a standard board. There's nothing really special about it.
It looks actually kind of weak to me because we have one item in Zaya that we're trying to use on Stable Rift, and we're relying on a Karma 2 with Vanquisher, which, don't get me wrong, is good, but a lot of people are also really strong. That's a Nautilus 3 that's very tanky, and with the Bramble Vest means that the Vanquishers can't go for the full crit value.
Yeah, can't get through this Nautilus, the big beast with the Riptide pushing through, and now Azir gonna take a big chunk out of Zyko. He's gonna be on 1 life left.
His board, unfortunately, is just a little too weak. I think also he has 2 Vanquishers that he gets from the Emblem and the Heart on 2-1. But what did he use with that slot? He just puts in a Taric 1 at the front line. That's not good enough. And it just feels like Zyko's board quality is not consistent across the board. I think he's destined for a bot 4 here. Nico 3 for Bobe.
Bobe finds his massive upgrade, and this next carousel could be so big with so many vertical traits being chased by so many players.
Oh, he is cooking. If you don't like this comp, then you don't like TFT. Right now, we have not seen 4 Electric be played almost all tournaments. And now everyone's hitting their 3-cost 3-stars that are all in line.
Hydra on 56 gold. With this Quinn 3, buys him stability for the next few fights. Can go 9 as well to cap out this board.
Easily will make it a 9, and he has such a big HP buffer over the rest of the lobby. We see now Toronto Tokyo also contesting Zyko is down a level, but it looks like the comp quality pretty strong. Very tanky Shen in the front line is going to live, and it's just 1 item on Zaya versus 3 for Toronto Tokyo.
Oh,
but
huge
still,
cast
the cast from the Karma
RNG
hits
there.
everything, and Zyko stays alive even longer. Toronto Tokyo now in danger of taking an 8th.
And Dark Hydra, despite the Quinn 3, also takes a loss. Isotoma finds more stability, finds more time to maybe finally hit this Silco 3. Is there going to be a Demacia emblem? No, but there is an Ionia emblem on this carousel. Could be huge for Toronto Tokyo and Zyko.
Look at the lobby HP and how close it is on the bottom half. 4 for Toronto Tokyo, and Kurum all the way in 4th place, only at 18, potentially 2 lives.
So
but
tight.
It's so tight, it's going to be massive on these next 2 fights.
This might be the most amount of Bramble Vests we'll see all weekend long. The fact that everyone has a Bramble, actually Toma took a second Bramble. He already has one. I mean, it could be the Unstable Rift item, but it's just amusing. Bramble has largely fallen out because Vanquishers and Ionia are not that popular, but in this lobby, it actually kind of makes sense given the popularity of certain comps that we're seeing.
This is yet again, and we're talking about the coin flip nature of Pandora's Bench. We've seen it have these massive high rolls. Stage 4, you're popping off, but all of a sudden, almost 2 entire stages rolling 4 costs and not finding a Silco.
I mean, it makes sense. Silco's 3-way contested, so it's gonna be pulling directly from the pool. Pandora's isn't just an open roll off every single 4 cost available, so that does seem to check out. Meanwhile, Toronto Tokyo making his last stand. He's now relying on Neela to carry, which is not great. Positioning around the Rogues. No, he's going up against the 3-star Ishtals.
He finds the Ishtals. We're looking at that Nico. Will it just destroy Toronto Tokyo's board? Zyko on the other side facing Dark Hydra, who we saw lose even after hitting the Quinn 3. Zaya in a good position around the Rogues. Might be able to take down the Nico. One more cast. She gets through, takes it down. Toronto Tokyo stays alive, and it looks like Zyko's fallen on the other side, so Toronto Tokyo will salvage at least a 7th.
And that's huge, because remember, Toronto Tokyo is leading the standings alongside Wage and Iverson, basically all of China. So for him, being able to preserve placements gives him that much more likelihood to advance. And all of a sudden, look at 2nd to 7th.
And Zyko, unfortunately, had a bit of a free fall the last 3 games in day 1. That free fall continues. We saw the level 7 roll down was far from ideal, had no upgrades at 10 gold level 7, so it's not surprising to see him here in the 8th place position.
And look what happened. Chingro's spot was so good, he was so healthy. 7 bilge water, 4 HP. And if he's going up against a really strong player like Bobe, he didn't position around the Rogues.
No.
This could be terrible for Chingro.
Gotta watch the Kiana jumping straight to the Azir potential here as we see the Nico in the middle. Kiana makes it to the Azir. A true display of talent, gonna take him down. And that's gonna be Chingro falling in the bottom 2. Unless Toronto Tokyo's got him. We gotta watch the HP, but he gets the win.
I mean, Chingro lost by so much. Even if Toronto Tokyo lost, probably would have 6. Cosmo barely surviving. Toma takes a narrow victory.
Even Dark Hydra takes a loss as well, so continue to tighten. Finally finds one Silco.
He's given up on the 2-star 4 cost, actually, which is really interesting. He actually rolled all the way down and then decided to play the Sejuani 2, which may have actually been the reason why he won that fight. That is the difficulty of Pandora's Bench. I know you're talking about the coin flipping nature, but the reality also is, and this is going to be a hard fact for a lot of people to swallow, is that Pandora's Bench is actually a very high skill cap potential in the right hands of the players. At this level, if you are weak at Pandora's Bench or even shifting sands, that's a huge leak in your gameplay. You need to learn how to manage these very tricky, nuanced probability rules.
Silco found in the shop. He needs one more.
Oh my god, what happened?
Hey,
Wait a
this got
second.
exciting
Maybe
fast.
one away from the Silco 3. He has maybe even the chance to sell everything on
Yeah, sell
the
everything.
bench and try and find the Silco naturally. He is on a singular
go,
life,
go.
10 HP to work with.
No,
Ice is
don't
not
get
the
baited.
answer.
We gotta roll. Making that is like slightly questionable, but
Okay.
it doesn't even really move
Is he
the needle.
waiting? I guess he's waiting.
Roll one more time. One more time. At least one more time.
See,
You have
just
2
see,
gold.
Just see. All right. Isotoma feels confident that he's going to win this fight.
I mean,
Binary on 5
Toronto,
different
Tokyo.
units.
This is the fight for placements.
could be a fight full of regret depending on what ends up happening. He does have a lot of his units pumped over, which actually could be really bad if the Zayas end up targeting both, depending on how long the front line can hold.
Yeah, the
That was
Jarvan not
dead.
able to stun onto the Zaya, but the Zaya is targeted by the Azir. There's nothing more for Toronto, Tokyo. He held on for quite some time, but he will fall here to Isotoma.
Check out
Can
Cosmo.
Cosmo
Cosmo
fall?
also
Well, he
taken
does.
down. What does the placements look like here? Is Toronto going to be 6? It's minus 11 for him, and Cosmo going to be down to
-17.
minus 17. Barely misses out on the top 4 for the NA player who, as you mentioned, Dan, was leading the pack coming into this Game 7.
5th is actually pretty good, given that a couple rounds ago he looked like he was potentially going 8th. So
Yeah.
I think that's a decent salvage for him. Maybe he could have potentially squeezed the top 4. In the meantime, Bobe taking a loss, and I'm really curious to who. My guess is Dark Hydra, but it's potential that Kurimex is just way too strong because now he has 3-star Jace with Zon. Looks like robotic arm on that Jace. Just how far can the Zonkop go? And whether or not Toma can potentially steal it away with a Silco 3.
Yeah, we're going to see Kurum against Toma right now, so we'll get the chance. Isotoma did not find that 3-star, so now it's just the Azir trying to punch through the tank line of Kurum, but the Jace is pumping out so much damage. It's just the front line collapsing, though, as the Nasus is still hanging on. The Nasus just way too tanky, but Jace finally punches through, and Toma will go down. Kurum going to continue a 5-win streak with the Zon.
Bobe also down to minus 17, so Toma does secure a third place in the end. NA versus EMEA to decide this final fight, or final few fights, depending if Dark Hydra ends up taking a loss or 2 here. He's gone 9, he's hitting on a Rise pair, a Scion pair. How did you continue to upgrade this board, Dan?
Do we know what Rise it is? He's holding on to it, and with Void, it's any of the other Rises. There's no Void ability on it. So if it's something like Shadow Isles or Noxus or Freljord, maybe, and you can see the spread from Kurum as well. Not entirely sure if he wants to clump his backline, and he ends up choosing to go for it, knowing that there's no Rise. Let's see if this is the final fight of the game.
Clump for the Jarvan. We got to watch and see, will Dark Hydra's Jarvan find all the CC on the backline? CC for now gets the jump.
Big
Jace
cataclysm.
is stunned. It hits everything. The damage is there to follow up. There's the Mordekaiser staying alive. Frontline down. Can the Jace punch through? He does. Big shot blast, but the Quinn gets there. One more cast, and Kurum's down to 7.
This carousel, is there anything that can come through here? Maybe another Demacia emblem to guarantee the win for Dark Hydra. Is there anything that particularly Kurum is looking for here, Dan?
I mean, he might be looking for a better user, like Aatrox is just generally very strong if you give him a powerful Zon mod, but he might be too locked in. I wonder if he actually just wants to take this for the Jewel Gauntlet for his Silco, because I remember he has one single item, so he can get a little bit more value. Hey, why not? Another death cap for Silco, see if he can close it out. That being said, that's a Belvet 2.
You have a Rabadons, though, onto this Mordekaiser.
So how do you actually tech in this Bel'Veth?
Could be Warmogs and the Deathplate, but not go for it. Gets the Aatrox 2 instead here.
And Kurum ends up teching in a Fiora for the Challenger as well. I'm not entirely sure if this is good enough for Kurum. This might just be a second for him, but it's a good second nonetheless.
All right, we'll see if the Jace can get it done. These fights have gotten pretty close, but the spread this time around will not let the Jarvan get as good of a chunk. And the Jace is still safe on the side. One more cast from Jarvan doesn't get there, and the Jace is going to take out Mordekaiser straight away. So now it comes down to the Quinn, but this time Warwick has stayed relatively healthy. The front line is holding for Kurum. This fight's actually going heavily in Kurum's favor. Can the Quinn get one more good cast out, though, to change the outcome? She does not. Kurum's going to find the win in this fight. I mean, I guess we've seen some crazy world enders, but it's not going to happen this time. Kurum and Dark Hydra both on one life, one last fight.
You know, it doesn't feel like JG should move the needle that much, but because Jinx was able to output just a little bit enough damage, that adaptive on her helped her heal back to full health. And so you saw the bird strike from Quinn almost wipe the entire backline out, but able to heal back and sustain himself. That was a huge outcome there, making me think Kerm's a favorite now.
As you mentioned, guys, I think it was the Mordekaiser dying so early, especially we saw in the last fight. It was the complete opposite. Mordekaiser survived to the very end, even tanked a few hits to buy time for that Quinn.
Texting the Fury, so we have 2 Dark, and that could make all the difference going into this final fight.
Side now.
Get there, he's on the right side, but the spread once again from Kerm. The Jarvan does not get the Jason. Once again,
That's
the
twice he
Jason
does.
takes down the Jarvan immediately. However, that Mord is on the correct side. He gets to the Silco.
Blank.
Gonna take it out immediately, and this Scion has CC'd the Jinx, but there is the Quinn not getting the Sky Strikes onto the back line, and they're still alive. Jace gonna fire away, takes out the Quinn. There's nothing left. It's just an Aatrox, and his world will not end Kerm's. It will be Dark Hydra going down instead.
USA